Welcome back to Vuln Vibes, everybody. Back again with another deep dive. You know the drill by now.
And we're back in the WP safe block today.
That's right. We're talking WordPress security, as always.
The stuff that keeps site owners up at night.
It keeps me up at night, too.
Glad to hear it.
This is the stuff that you really need to know to protect yourself and your clients. If you're running a business online especially, you got to make sure that things are secure.
Absolutely. And today we're talking about password managers.
Kind of funny, ironic.
Right. Yeah. Passwords are supposed to be protecting us, but sometimes they're the source of the vulnerability.
Yeah, especially when you're using, a plugin to manage all those passwords.
Yeah, definitely a double-edged sword there.
It's convenient, but
But like anything with WordPress, you got to be careful what you install.
we're going to be talking about the Passwords Manager plugin. This one's got a couple of pretty serious vulnerabilities that have been discovered recently.
Yeah, some pretty nasty ones.
Yeah, so let's jump right in. Tell me what's the first one we're looking at here.
So the first one is unauthorized data modification. And that sounds pretty scary, right?
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
Basically, what's happening here is that there's a missing capability check in some of the plugin's AJAX actions. And without going too deep into the technical details, what that means is that an attacker could send a request to the plugin that looks like they're just changing a setting or something like that.
Mhm.
But because there's no capability check, the plugin doesn't actually verify that they're allowed to do that.
That was not good.
So basically, they could change anything.
So does that mean even just like a subscriber level access could do this?
Yeah, exactly. Someone with even the most basic level of access could potentially change plugin settings, add new passwords. It's kind of like giving the keys to your castle to someone who just wandered in off the street.
Wow.
And the implications there are pretty serious. You could have account hijacking, backdoors.
Really anything you can imagine.
Yeah, really anything.
Wow, okay, so that's pretty serious. And you said this affects all versions of the plugin up to a certain point, right?
Yeah, all the way up to 1.4.8.
Yikes. All right, so that is definitely something to keep an eye out for. Vulnerability number 1 in the books. Let's move on to number 2. What do we got?
All right, so the second vulnerability is a classic.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
This one's called SQL injection.
Oh, yeah, that's a familiar one. Been around for a while.
Yeah, it's an oldie but a goodie, at least for the attackers.
Right, right.
And basically what SQL injection is a way for attackers to manipulate database queries. They're essentially slipping in malicious code that tricks the database into revealing information it shouldn't. So in this case, we're talking about the possibility of stealing usernames, passwords, anything stored in the WordPress database.
Potentially even more than just that, right? Depending on the site, you could have financial data or other sensitive information.
Absolutely, especially if you're running like an e-commerce store or something like that. Yeah, there could be all sorts of sensitive information in that database. And this one is even scarier because even unauthenticated attackers could exploit it. So you don't even have to be logged into the WordPress site to potentially cause damage. The vulnerability is in the way the plugin handles user-supplied data in certain AJAX functions. It's like leaving a backdoor wide open.
Okay, so 2 pretty major vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Anyone listening who's using this plugin right now is probably getting a little bit nervous. What do they need to do? What should they do to protect themselves?
Well, the first and most important thing is to make sure you're running the latest version of the plugin. Hopefully by now the developers have released a patch.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. But even if they have, it's a good opportunity to step back and reevaluate your security practices. Maybe a simple plugin isn't the best way to handle something as critical as password management.
Right, and there are other options out there.
Yeah, for sure. You've got dedicated password managers like LastPass, 1Password. Even modern browsers these days have pretty good built-in password management features.
Uh-huh.
So there are alternatives.
They might not be as tightly integrated with WordPress, but maybe that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes a little less convenience is worth a lot more security.
Yeah, I think this whole situation really underlines something we've been talking about for a while now. Convenience isn't always the best thing when it comes to security. We want to make things easy, but sometimes those shortcuts can really backfire.
Couldn't agree more.
So that's something to keep in mind for everyone out there listening.
Yeah.
What other plugins do you have running on your site? Maybe some that need a closer look.
Exactly. And don't wait for a headline to make you reevaluate your security practices.
Stay vigilant.
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's it for this Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you later.